Okay, and so this whole ecosystem. So when you put a picture up, you know, of a Hawaiian fish pond, and you compare it to, I call it a haole fish pond, which is, or cage, totally artificial and so forth. I don't see any comparison. You know, there is no comparison that every, you know, the cages, the open ocean fish ponds, and the guys who are proposing or wanting to build it, when they say, oh, it's just like a Hawaiian fish pond, or it's like your ancestors' cultural fish pond because they were, you know, aquaculturists. Yeah, all kupuna was aquaculturists, but they know how to do it right.
And they also had a big party when they harvest, right? Big hukilau.
And the
so
hukilau,
how many hukilau get on the
well, and the other
fish
thing,
farms?
you know, the other thing that was important here is that in these fish ponds, you had to make, for the ahupua'a, the fish were used to take care of the people in that ahupua'a within the district. The konahiki, who was the manager of all of that area, not only the fish ponds, but the oceans as well as
the whole ahupua'a, yeah.
Okay, they were responsible for that. And they would make sure that there were enough food for everybody, okay? And one of the things that was, you know, people say, well, you know, the fish pond was only for the high chiefs, and only the high chiefs would take the food for them. No, because the reason for that is that the high chiefs knew that if there were heva, you know, ruling chiefs, that the people were bad.
Okay.
For people on Hawaii, bad. Okay, and what they would do would be the people would pick up and move to another district or ahupua'a if the chief was not
fair.
A fair chief, yes. And so then you would lose your population. So the chief knew that he had to malama the people in these areas. And so the argument that, oh, the fish ponds were only for high chief. No, 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 no. It was to take care of the people. And if you were a fair and honest chief, the more people you had in your ahupua'a, that meant that you were one of the best chiefs to live with. And then you would have the lawai'a, you would have the mahi'ai, and the farmers and the fishermen, all the best, would want to come to live in your district. You know, and so this is the understanding that we have. And when you look at the open ocean, you have to ask, for what reason? The other question that we raise is, what is a ho'okupu to the people?
Gift.
Actually, it's offering. Offering to the people, okay? Because the offering that should be made is not in the form of jobs, because it doesn't create jobs, and it's not in the form of money. And so when we ask the question, what is the ho'okupu that the open ocean fish farms bring, we haven't gotten an answer yet.
Because it's all leaving Hawaii. I guess.
I'll leave that for the scientists to figure out.
So, have you talked with any people in the state, Christina, or in Hawaii, officials in Hawaii, about the science that's been done, any analysis that's been done before they started leasing out the ocean?
Well, the process they've gone through for most of these so far is they've just gone through an environmental assessment for these fish farms. An environmental assessment is something, there's an environmental assessment and then there's an environmental impact statement. And an environmental assessment is much less rigorous than an environmental impact statement. Yes. An assessment is basically saying, here are some of these issues, we looked at them, we don't have to prove that we looked at them, and we don't have to go into detail with it, really. It's mostly just looking at the environmental effects of what they're proposing.
But that would trigger an EIS then, right? Because an EA that doesn't answer all the questions should trigger an EIS, right? An environmental impact statement, a full study.
I think early on they decide whether or not there's a FONSI, a finding of significant impact.
Yes.
And if they find early on, as they did in the Kona Blue recent request for a reconfiguration of their cages and everything, they issued a FONSI on that. And so they only have to do an environmental assessment. And these farms haven't been required to do the environmental impact statements. Hawaii Oceanic Technology has prepared an environmental impact statement, but the others have not. Hukila, which is off of Eva, started out as a research project and then went commercial. And now, I mean, it's grown in that time, and now it's seeking to quadruple its production and expand the lease size that it has. And it's only doing an environmental assessment.
So do these fish farms grow fish for Hawaii consumption or export?
Mostly for export. Kona Blue, for example, sends about, I think it's over 80% to the mainland that they say directly that goes to the mainland, and they keep about 15 to 20% gets sold to people in Hawaii, but that can be to distributors who then sell it back onto the mainland or elsewhere. And a lot of the fish, they're growing high value fish. So it's not fish that the common person is going to get at a restaurant or that you're going to find at McDonald's or anything like that. It's more like $17 per pound of a fillet of the kampachi that Kona Blue has. That's what you're getting. You're going to Roy's and you're finding it, or you're going to like Mama's Fish House in Maui, and that's where you'll find it. The really high-end restaurants.
Yeah, the places where we don't go.
Yeah, and where it's exported to on the mainland, the same thing is happening too. It's at these high-end restaurants that are marketing themselves as very sustainable because they're being told that this is a very sustainably grown fish. And so that's why they're buying into it and paying these high prices and then giving it to their consumers and saying, look, we're doing a great thing. We have all sustainable fish on our menu.